There it is. There we go. Good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. We're here on the West Coast now, so it's just 4 o'clock our time. But I know people on the East Coast at 7, and I'm trying to think. I always get this. We get a lot of people watching us from England sometimes too, and I think they're like 8 or 10 hours maybe different.
Yeah,
So
it's morning. It's like
or
midnight,
or
early
midnight.
morning.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've got to sneeze. I'll just hang on a second here.
Achoo, bless you.
I've been pulling weeds and that kind of thing today. Every time I do that, get in the grass and everything, I have a little bit of
The pollen hits you,
an
and it's
allergy.
pollen season up
The pollen
here in the
season.
Northwest for
Yeah.
me. So
Well, our podcast, as you see, is called Dance of the Soul, and we like to talk about anything human and the human experience, and how to deal with it from the perspective of our higher selves, or to deal with it, in a way that's I guess you would say in the best possible way you could deal with difficult situations. My name's Regan Forston, and as you can see on the screen right there, I have a website called visittheafterlife.com. And Natasha and I we're like twins in a way, handling these situations from two different perspectives. As hers, as she'll tell you in a minute, she's this incredibly talented intuitive medium. And me, I work with the Newton Institute as a researcher into the afterlife. We have 250 of us all in 46 countries, as you probably hear every week. You probably have it memorized now. And what we're doing is we found a special process which allows people in a deep state of trance, which most people can reach, to expand their awareness to the other side. And they become kind of like a Natasha in a way, where they get to see things, like she sees. With mediums, they just have this natural ability to, attach themselves or to get information from the other side, just because I would say they're just this close to the other side. The rest of us mortals are a little further away, and so we use trance or hypnosis to kind of do that, so we can get information that way. So anyway, you can check out my website, a lot of great videos and everything. And Natasha, your angeliclarifications.com, and I'm getting used to spelling that now. I just have to sound it out
I
as I'm
know
spelling
it's
it.
so long, when I got that email back a couple of years ago, it's been almost 15-20 years ago.
Mhm.
It was like, and you're expecting a dyslexic to spell that?
Oh,
It was kind of a ha-ha on the universe. And
yeah,
I want to make this really clear here. We were supposed to have a guest on today.
yeah. Thank you.
Bruce Starr, and he's supposed to be here before, and he was here about a month ago, and here he
Is he
yes,
popping
I'm
in?
coming. He just emailed me.
Oh, great.
So he I think he got lost in the time. So he says he's going to
Yeah.
be coming on. So I just emailed him. So please take care. But for me, like I was having a conversation with my husband last night. And talking about rebranding myself and stuff like that. And people are like, just be a wordsmith. And I go, how do I, being the dyslexic that I am, not reading really until after high school, really reading, I could read words, simple words, get concepts, but it wasn't for my friends in high school. I would not have even graduated, because they would keep giving me answers. They would tell me what words were. So I really didn't read books. And so how do I put words to my knowings? Because like I'm sitting here talking to my husband, and we're watching some show like Ancient Aliens, and I'm telling him all the answers before they even say the things, and or they're even going, and I think it's this way, and I'm like, before they even say that, I'm saying what it is, and I said, and I see dimensions already, just me talking to you. I'm seeing
Yeah.
dimensions that we're having different conversations and different things like that, and resend the link. I just
Yeah.
um
Yeah. Ancient aliens. Yeah, that's got to be funny. A lot of
yeah,
times when you just know the stuff that the rest of us are learning. Um, I've been watching the Mystery of Skinwalker Ranch, which has been really fascinating, because they're doing everything scientifically with all kinds of gadgets and instruments and everything, because they know that there's something there's something abnormal going on there, and they're kind of poking the hornet's nest. So I'm just hoping they don't go too far and something happens there,
Mm-hmm.
But it's very, very, very interesting, watching that and what's going on. Um, but I think some of this when I was at the New Living Expo last weekend, where I had, gosh, so many people at my booth, I was nonstop talking about this process. I actually gave a talk there, and a lot of the people that were at the talk came and signed up to have these life between life sessions. And there was a booth there that I never got to, but it was
Sorry,
these
I got
guys.
to resend the link. So if I'm looking down, I'm
Yeah,
trying to
no,
do
no,
business
I know
here.
you're listening to. Yeah, both
Okay.
people are listening there. They're when I was at my booth. Oh, somebody came by and said that somebody at another booth there. They're the ones that are developing what they call this God phone, and I found that on the internet a couple of years ago, and then I was trying to tell someone about it, and I was trying to go back and find it, and I never could. But that's why I was so busy at my booth, I didn't go by and see how they're coming there. But apparently, there's people like Edison, Tesla, or something on the other side that are trying to help us, how we can produce some software or some hardware that will let people, in a sense, be able to, in a sense, pick up the phone and talk to the people on the other side, or at least to get yes and no answers, certain
Yeah.
way and things. So I mean, that's just as crazy it sounds, but I don't know. We're just moving towards that. I can just feel where there's this close, we're moving. So many of us are closer to the other side. And so all these, I just have to just allow myself to be open to all this and, believe what I believe and not the other, but I don't want to miss out on all this good stuff. So I'm trying to keep my mind open to all these new findings,
And
but,
understandings.
and
Yeah, because
understanding.
I
Yeah.
know for me, it's like, to finish my thought, because I apologize, because, I want to get Bruce on here,
Yeah.
that, it's like how, people, my, everybody's saying, you get the language that, and I'm like going, but I don't have the language because of the fact that, I haven't read it. It's not in my
Yeah.
brain to know these words that I haven't. I struggle reading certain books still to this day, because
Yeah.
if it doesn't grab my attention, if I can't visualize it, I don't read it even
Yeah.
today. And so they're like going, well, how do you pick a different word? I'm like going, uh, mm,
Yeah.
okay, can you give me some perspectives on some words, maybe?
Yeah.
So I can at least trigger some of those knowings that I might have so that
Yeah.
I can do that. Because I was talking to someone, it's like, I understand the you know, total quantum physics of spirituality, the quantum physics of the universe, actually, the
Yeah.
quantum physics of, I see it, and I can feel it, I know it. Um, so it's one of those things that going forward, hi Bruce, device is not connected, so I'm gonna wait for you. um,
Well,
so
probably
it,
that. Don't you think that dyslexia kind of helped you develop your medium talents in a way, because you had to look at everything from a different perspective than someone who's book learned,
I totally understand that my being dyslexic kept me so awake because I didn't read my knowings. I kept my knowings.
Yeah.
So with that there's this like fine line between, Bruce, well, I'm almost seeing you. I don't see, I just see a kind of a gray screen, so I'm kind
He's
of
got to
waiting for
turn
you to
his
get,
video on. Yeah.
yeah, your video needs to be turned on and that kind of stuff, maybe. um so it's one of those things, or start all over and, oh, there you are, hello, okay, so I'll let you in just a minute, okay. So it's one of those things that going forward, I did not necessarily read my knowings. All my knowings have stayed right here because
Yeah.
I I couldn't read to distract myself from my knowings. And I didn't watch a lot of TV because there were so many scary movies, and I couldn't, because everything was right here. It's funny, I can sit, there's a place where up here that it was kind of like a it's a porthole. So there's like skinwalkers, there's There's, aliens, there's different creatures and everything like that. I
Yeah.
sat out in the middle of it, in the middle of dark. You would think I'd be scared. No. But yet, can I watch a scary movie?
Yeah.
So Bruce is here. Welcome, Bruce. We finally got you here. So I'm going to let you in, sir. Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. So here he is.
Yeah. Let's.
Hey, all
Bruce.
right. Oh, too much light.
Starr.
Thank you so much. I am so sorry.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go through it, but we had storms here, and it was super difficult. Something happened to my computer, and I've been struggling the last half hour to get back in.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry.
You're good. You're good. Yeah.
Yeah. What state are you in?
South Florida. They have a big front
Oh,
went through, and when they go through, they're real humdingers. It's
yeah.
and it just upsets everything. But thank God I made it.
Yeah.
Well, good,
Pete-
good.
yeah.
And welcome, and no problem. Mercury's in retrograde right now, so
Oh,
that
my
makes
God.
total sense for electronics, communication,
Oh my gosh.
all the, even a little bit of the weather scenario with technology. And I get it. Like my father-in-law used to say when he was alive, it's like, we live in Florida. It rains heavy sometimes.
And on one block, it could be sunny, and the next block, it's a torrential downpour.
Yeah.
Yep, that's the way it is in Washington too. So
Yeah. Well, Bruce, for people that weren't here last time, give yourself a good introduction there to let people know what it is you do and about the books that you have on the subject.
Great. Well, thank you so much again for having me on the show. It's
Yeah.
an honor. You guys are great. We had such an
We had a lot of
excellent time when we were together last. Goodness gracious.
Yeah.
So I've been on a 48-year self-study. In 1975. Was I even born then? Yeah, but I was already born in 1975. I was just started studying about different philosophies on life, and actually studied with Marianne Williamson. She used to teach the Course in Miracles, and she was my teacher way back. She used to come to New York City a couple of times a month. She flew in from Los Angeles to teach at a little church on the West Side, and she's a phenomenal teacher. And now, of course, she's thinking that she wants to be president of the United States, which I think is wonderful. But I've just studied so many different things, and really it was to help me in my own relationships, because there was something amiss. There was a wire missing out of my relationship connection. And I was kind of desperately trying to find out what that was. So I started with astrology. We talked real briefly about the Mercury retrograde. And I started studying astrology, just to learn about different people. And it goes on. And I finally I learned so much that I started doing classes, and then I started hosting radio shows. And eventually I said, hey, if I could do radio, why not do television? And a lot of years I spent on the air talking about relationships. And finally, I did something that I just broke through my own natural glass ceiling. I actually published 2 books. One I started 30 years ago, and the other I started a couple of years ago. The one I started 30 years ago, believe it or not, I'm going to change the name on both of these books I'm going to tell you about now. And I can share why on this show.
Mm-hmm.
I have a very good friend who's an Akashic record reader.
Mm-hmm.
And she's also someone that we talk to and hash things out with. And she says, why don't we have the Akashic records take a look at your books? I said, what?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. What? How does that work?
Well, because a lot of the Akashic records, holds a lot of our truths that we write about today.
But to find the title for me, I said, Sure, no problem. I'm open for anything. And would you believe that these, I mean, they came up with, they said, you could tweak it a little bit, doesn't have to be exactly but they came up with two phenomenal titles. So the first book I started writing 30 years ago, I've held on to this title for those 30 years. It's called Bodytraders. Bodytraders. There's no word. I was determined to get that word into the English dictionary. Bodytraders. So what does that mean? Real briefly, if you had your heart broken when you were 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, and someone broke your heart, her parents broke you up, his parents broke you up, and you got your heart broken. If you were a guy, you may never recover. And when you ladies think that we're like socially and romantically retarded, that's why. Because if we get our hearts broken, we just don't recover.
No,
we
you
don't get a
don't.
chance to speak to Joe or Frank. We don't say, "Hey, I'm feeling so vulnerable. My girlfriend broke up with me, and she says that I'm a terrible lover." And guys don't do that, right? So we're stuck with all that inside of us. So what is body trading? When you go from coming from your heart, like you did when you were 15, 16, 17, 18, or a young person, and you say, love is too scary. I'm not going for love anymore. I'm going for the best deal. I'm going for someone who has money. I'm going for someone who has the perfect body and a great looks. And the girl stereotypically says, I'm going for someone who drives the right car, lives in the right neighborhood. And it becomes, instead of love, it becomes a trade. If you have enough of what I have, I'll give you what you have enough of what I want from you. I'll give you what I have. So that's like, it used to be known as horse trading, right? Horse trading, a trade. I called it body trading. So I stuck with that title for quite a while. And then the Akashic record readers got a hold of it.
Yeah, lots of ruck with that one, right?
Okay, now, Bruce, explain who the Akashic readers are.
I don't know.
Well,
I mean, you guys can explain it better than I could. Listen, we all have. Have you ever seen the movie Defending Your Life?
Yeah.
Okay. So Defending Your Life was when you die, you go up and there's everything that you've ever done, is a record, and it's all ingrained up in the heavens, and everybody knows everything about up there, about this life, last life, next life, whatever it is. So they're the Akashic record readers. Down here, they're able to connect. There's some people that can connect with the dead. We've all seen maybe the Long Island Medium. People like her. There's a lot of people like that now. So they connect with the records, the official records.
So for instance, Natasha here.
Yeah,
Natasha reads Akashic records. So it could have been, in other words, was it a medium or somebody that you contacted the Akashic records, or was it some sort of spiritual practice you have that you got it on an inner knowing?
No. It was this lady friend of mine who's an accomplished and well-known connector, Akashic record connector.
The way that another way that I kind of is that there's a scene in Harry Potter where they go in to this place and there's like these balls all over the place. That it's as immense as that, but I wouldn't say it's exactly like that. Whenever I look through Akashic records, it's almost like I go into a room and it depends on where you look. It depends on what comes up. And you just got to look into wherever you need to go. It's like, and it multiplies, it grows. Whichever way you go, it grows. So if you want the information over here, it grows there. And if you want the information over here, it grows over there. So it depends on where you are, depends on what information you get. And you can go in and cipher through it. It's this huge, immense book, you know, and you actually, because I remember writing in my contract coming into this world, that actually that's part of the information when you come into this world is written into the Akashic records. What is your contract coming in? And that's part of how we negotiate coming into this world is it's established in our Akashic records. What is our goals in this world? And you can change your contract from when you come in, but at the same time, that Akashic record is part of the intention of what you are in this world.
Yeah.
What a beautiful explanation.
So now let's continue with your story. Now that the Akashic records have entered, taking a look at your book, what did they say?
Oh, I totally did not believe that they'd be able to come up with a title, because I've tried for so many years. It's like one of the most challenging things. So what came out pretty quickly was The Lost Soul's Guide to Love.
Oh, I like that.
That actually
awesome.
rings more to what the book's about.
Yeah.
When I heard that, I said, "Get out of town. Are you kidding?" Wow.
Yeah, Lost Soul's Guide to Love. Wow. Because we always talk about these lost souls walking around, and
exactly,
they're like in an altered state because they're just, you know, a breakup or something that's happened. They just haven't come down to earth again. You know?
That's it. Once your heart's broken and you're going in somebody else's shoes, you're walking in somebody else's shoes. You're not doing why you came here. You're not doing it. You're kind of a lost soul. So it was like,
well, I actually lived that with my husband. He got his heart broken by his ex-wife. It took me probably 5 to 10 years into our marriage before he stopped holding a torch. The first 5 years was basically, he didn't buy me necklaces or anything pretty because she did not appreciate it.
No.
You know, and I get that. I mean, the reason why we got together is greater than what I'm speaking of here.
Right.
So this is just an element of his hurt heart that I saw as a hurt heart, and I knew that it wasn't my job to fix it, but it was my job as a woman to hold space for it to heal.
That's beautiful, because I'll tell you that another way that not to look at it, but imagine when you're 15, 16, 17 years old and you offer this full pie. I say it's an apple pie. Here's my full pie. I'm offering it all to you. Mm-hmm. No reservations, no baggage. Here, take it. I just want to experience you. But if you get your heart broken, a guy, girl, you're lucky if you offer half of your pie.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or even less. So if you're offering a half a pie, you're only going to get back a half a relationship. Even if you try your best, and even if you mean well, you're still not giving it all, because if you're sensitive, and I guess I'm super sensitive, the pain was just too much.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's why a lot of men especially have broken hearts, and they end up having heart attacks as they get older, or blocked arteries, or they have a lot of scenarios in the heart chakra, because if they're an open-hearted person, they close down their heart. I see their hearts closed down, that chakra closed down, and it stifles it, so it can't beat at its full abundance. And so then it negotiates in a different way. And this stems from, you know, even being broken from mothers. And I wouldn't say that it's not a broken heart, that women can get broken hearts too, but we manage, like you say, we manage it a little differently because we're able to voice our emotions. It's a given. Men aren't allowed, or haven't in the past been allowed. You know,
you have your aunt, your grandmother, your mother, your cousins, your friends to talk about this. They love talking about it. And boy, you certainly do get it out, and you're going to get all this advice. Not for men.
No. You actually are sabotaged being able to talk about things. And that's one thing that, I've actually helped my husband over the 32 years of marriage to have a vulnerability.
Wow. Congratulations. That's
So,
great.
but it takes it takes that moment of feeling safe. You have to help someone feel safe by being authentic.
Yes. Yeah. And the that's it right there. The authenticity of knowing that if you allow your heart to open back up, that she's not going to smash it. She's not going to leave. She's not going to, there was like the first love. I remember she would, oh, you can share anything with me. You can talk to me about anything. And then like 6 months later, if you got into a fight with her, she took what you gave her and just used it like this again. She's like, oh my God, I gave you my most vulnerable stuff. Okay. All right. So by the way, when I gear up and start doing podcasts, would you dare to come on the show and do a live reading with me to show people how you work and how it works?
I would. If you're asking me, yes.
Yeah.
I mean, I would love to be a part of that scenario,
That's
because
great.
I do walk into past lives. I do walk into, it's like, ooh, what do I not do? And I don't mean that as ego, listen, it's that, it's like with Regan, I had a session with him, and there's a dimension that I'm a really, really rich. I'm a witch too, but I'm really rich, and I'm very lonely there. And so one time I was doing some work and Regan was like, what does this life have to do with this? So we moved on. But I'm like going, oh, this is great, because I can share a little bit of my my camaraderie that I have, the friendship, give that to her in that dimension. And can I have some of your rich knowings, and bring him over to here so I can, handle my money different, handle my situation, bring in some, abundance into my reality. And, it's taking a little time for that movement and that shift to happen. But yeah, I would love to support, just spreading love and awareness.
Exactly. If I could turn the tables on both of you and interview you two guys, that would be excellent. So I'm glad that you're
okay. So now, Bruce, you being a love coach.
Yes.
Let's say you have a client that comes in and he's got this broken heart and he's trying the best he can to be vulnerable. And if you build a good rapport, that's the thing with us therapists here, all three of us, and we have a kind of a different approach, but we want our clients to feel comfortable, of course, and once they do, then they start opening up. What would be, let's maybe all three of us, because we have three different ways we could attack this situation here to help somebody, but what would you normally do to try to help him turn the corner so that he could become more vulnerable?
When you're in a panic because you got your heart broken and you want to be social, the first thing you do is, and people will tell you this, get back on the horse, start right away, start dating, go out there, date. No. I mean, I've been through it all, really, socially. And the one thing you don't want to do is, you hear people, oh, I got so into my career, I got so into my job, and all of a sudden they're 55. No, you have to slow down. You have to take the time to not be distracted by your work and friends and sex and gambling and chocolate and whatever it is that you get yourself distracted by. Slow down. And I tell people, go learn how to meditate. You have to rebuild your pie.
Yeah.
Your pie is half eaten, if not more right now. You have to rebuild your pie, but you have to do that slowly. Don't turn to the internet because, you can't find a proper distraction, in your own area there at work. Just slow down, meditate, go to yoga classes, go to the beach, hug trees, and start, that's really what I tell people, because that's got to be the first step.
Yeah, Bruce, you're absolutely right. I know when I'm doing my regular therapy practice with people that have those issues. The first thing that I warn them on that they know already, but it's good to hear it from a therapist is, don't go jumping right into another relationship, because people, you see, when you have this energetic connection with someone you love and then it breaks, it ends up, you feel like you have this giant hole in your energy, and you desperately are trying to reach for something to kind of fill that hole that you're missing, because you just, you can't function sometimes, and so so many people, they just jump into something that gives them a little bit of attention, and for temporarily they feel like, oh, okay, I can kind of breathe again because someone's loving, someone's likes me or something like that. But most of the time, what I've seen in those relationships, they just kind of, it ends up they don't get anywhere. It's just I guess a false sense that everything's okay. When it's
we used to call it a rebound relationship.
Right. Yeah.
And you never hear those working out under any circumstances for 100 different reasons. The other person says, oh, you just picked me as for rebound, and it just gets complicated. It really, it doesn't work. So
it only works for basketball players that do that. They know how to do it. They know how to handle a rebound.
I love that, Regan. That's great.
Anyway.
The second book, which was a total challenge, this book is for teenagers. I don't ask me how it happened, but I sat at different computers, mostly when nobody was around me, and I just heard whatever I heard, I typed and hoped it came out. So 272 pages later, this book about a young 13-year-old teen who goes and loves to go to the park and watch the birds. And there's a guy sitting next to her on this park bench who's feeding the birds. Nothing crazy, nothing stupid, but over weeks and months period of time, they become friends. And one day she asks him a question and he answers it. And she's walking home and she's saying, I haven't had that kind of information about anything in my life ever. And this man in 10 minutes gave me more insight into my problem. And here's a 13, 14-year-old talking about it. Anyway, the book is about a magical character, this man that she meets at a park feeding birds, who becomes her relationship coach all throughout her teen years, answers every question that she has in 5 years. Imagine if someone could answer every one of your questions that you had.
Wow.
When you were 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. I mean, especially these days with broken families and parents not there, and these kids on their own, where do they get their information from? Gangs, from girls who know less or who know too much about not the right things. So here's this very naive 13, 14, and so I named this book Her Teen Lovecoach. I really couldn't think of anything else. It's okay, but it's a little bit, something's missing from it, and I knew it, and that's why I was open. So when I heard the readers say, they said, you have to make it more personalized. So the character in the book, her name is Jensi, Jensi. And actually, a Jensi could be taken either way. It could be a boy, could be a
that's
girl.
what I was saying. You need to make it gender neutral.
Neutral. So they said, name it Jensi, and it's Jensi's initiation into teen love.
Good love, good title too.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God. That's what it is.
Yep.
And that's what, if somebody comes across that title, Jensi's initiation into teen love, they're going to know what that book's about.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, I mean, I'm just blown away. I'm a new fan.
Yeah. So on your books, are you going to leave them the same, or are you going to go through and kind of upgrade the other part of your books?
I went through one of them already, and miraculously, it was an easy gig for me. I love the editing. I already went through one. The other one I gave to a reader because someone suggested that it wasn't technically perfect, and it was a little bit too obvious to anyone who could be a grammar teacher. I'm not a technical writer.
Yeah.
I know that. So there's going to be some things that are obvious. If you're a grammar teacher, you're going to go, what's with this? So I gave it to a young lady, and she's going to go through it. And miraculously, there's so little I have to change. If you think about it, the titles just sort of stands independently on its own. I had to do some changes with the Bodytraders and stop saying everything was body trading. And I just literally did a word search, a replace. And wherever there was Body Trader, I put in Lost Soul. Boom. So it was a great experience. And I'm feeling a lot more confident now that this book is, now that I know technically the books are going to be in good shape and they have the right titles, nothing's going to hold these babies back.
Congratulations.
Yeah, Natasha, could you see him? I could see him doing school assemblies at middle school or that, and with the schools, because a lot of the problems that kids have in the schools with their grades and everything is because they get into relationship issues. That's where a lot of the violence comes from.
Much.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I mean, I'm in the elementary school, and so I see it in sixth graders. It starts back in like elementary school, second, third grade, of just demeaning each other, that there's no safety in relationships anymore. Now, even in kindergarten relationships,
wow,
it's they're mean sometimes in how they communicate to each other. Girlfriends, why are you wearing that dress today? This is a kindergartner,
wow.
And so but then there's other people that are like, oh, you look so pretty today. It's like, whatever you have one side. I mean, it's you have darkness, you have light, so there's the opposites. But at the same time, though, there's so much brokenness in our societal family networking. And I'm not talking about blood, mom, pop stuff. I'm talking about just family. I consider my friends family. So that friend family is such a broken place right now that it would be nice to have that going back to, like Steve Harvey has a book out, how do you do the basics? And I love the way he talks about it, because it's about people show you who they are. And we have to get back to that. People will show you who you are. So then that makes people accountable for how they show themselves.
So I'm going to share something with you that really pushed me to write this teen book. I'm a teacher. I'm a substitute teacher. I'm a both. And so I'll go anywhere from fourth grade and elementary up to 12th grade senior. I've seen it all. But I really focus on the middle school because they can't get teachers to teach middle school. The kids are too tough. They're too tough.
Well, you have to be a little off to teach the off kids. You have to be a little off. And I mean that as a positive.
Yes, thank you. I took it as a positive. Thank
you. Because you have to be a little off.
Yeah. So I know that they can't get very many people to fill that role. And once I started it, it's gained so much momentum. The kids love me. And I think they realize that I care about them. And if I don't get 50 "Hello, Mr. Stars" in a day, I don't get one. It's really amazing. And that's what I could be doing other things. But boy, when I see that I have the ability to be a positive, masculine, male role model for them during these really difficult times, that's what brings me back every day. So I want to share with you, there was a couple of girls, not at the same time, but over the years, who maybe they were in sixth grade, which means they're 12. Maybe they were, I think they were 6th grade, 7th grade when I first saw them. And they were very developed. And that always scares me because kids who are like that, if they're lucky, they're smart enough to wear sweatshirts. You can't see anything. But some of them wanted the attention.
Yes.
And so when you're 12 and that a woman 21 would give anything to have what they have at 12, that scares me, because if they're flaunting it, that's not going to end well.
No.
They're going to attract an 18-year-old, a 17-year-old, a 19-year-old, a 20-year-old. And they're going to tell them that they're 17 or 18 because they don't have the mentality, of course. And so when I saw that, it literally made me sick, because you know the way you can psychically tell where someone's going to go?
Mm-hmm.
I could psychically tell what's going to happen with these girls. And
Yeah.
that's why I wrote this book.
Well, it's funny because I have the client, one that she's just a dear, but when she had that issue about being developed that way, and she was kidnapped when she was 12, you know,
There you go.
and then you know, came home. She finally she befriended the kid that kidnapped her after several weeks in the desert, and when they're driving to town, she jumped out in traffic and got away. But her parents didn't want to put her through stuff or whatever. They never found him or pressed charges or anything like that. So then she's not doing good at home, and she runs away. And there's a guy in a bar that, you know, kept her in a trailer behind his thing when she was under.
Anything can happen.
Oh, it's just, and it goes. I mean, it's just goes. Natasha knows a little bit about her, and it goes on and on and on and on and on.
Talk about a broken soul.
When you need the attention, because you're not getting it, your dad's not there.
Yeah.
Dad's not loving on you. He's either not there at all, divorced, or he's working too many hours. People don't realize when that parent is working too many hours and they don't get a chance to love on their kids, it can be very devastating.
And it's difficult for the parents too, because the children, you know, at that age, they become a little defiant, and the girl wants attention. So, you know, she's going to put that sweatshirt on at home and then change into something else when she gets to school, you know. So it's like, I don't know what you do, you know, except just to try to educate her and hope that she becomes, I think even if with young girls that age, because I had 4 daughters, and when they get to be teenagers that way, if you, like with me, I had gone through 2 years of 3 years of anger management that I went through just to learn how to deal with issues I had with anger. And so I was so easy to identify all of the things in these young teenage boys, you know. So I would tell my daughters, you know, look, you know, the first sign of this, you know, giving them the signs, and I'd tell her this is going to happen, and then it's going to get worse and worse and worse. And luckily, one of my beautiful daughters, she nipped it in the bud, thank God, divorced the guy, you know, when she's just a teenager still, and you know, got out of what would have been a really horrible abusive situation, you know. So is that what you, I mean, you as with the kids and everything, how do you approach even that? How do we approach these young girls? Natasha, you know, being the lady in that way, you know, maybe have some ideas here. What do you do? Nothing?
You know, it's one of those things that when you see someone that has an empty love bucket, I'm going to call it, you know, and it starts at infancy. It starts in the womb, you know, and if you, I'm very imagery person. So I kind of picture like a bucket that we have, and if that love,
the pie, same thing.
Pie, whatever.
Right.
If you're not filling up that pie as it goes, they're going to reach for somewhere else to fill it in. And I can see very much those stories playing out. And there's nothing that someone can do until that person stops at some time in their life and looks in the mirror and says, I can't look for love outside of me. I have to look at love inside of me. And I can even say my dad and I walked, we finished each other's sentences. We were two pieces of a pie. It's like he was one half, I was the other. Our souls were so close. Even with him loving me as much as he did, completely for who I was, I still had to find love for myself.
Yeah.
He couldn't fill up that bucket that I needed to fill up. And I can say that about, like my husband. He was looking love outside of himself too. He had to find that love in his own bucket to figure out that own pie. We have to fill up our own pie. And if we don't have someone to help us to do that, or trigger that to happen, life tries to trigger us that to happen, breaks our heart. Wait a minute. And that's why I think we go through our first broken heart, because we have to flip it back on us and say, wait a minute, my love is broken. Okay, so I need to look at myself a little bit, but we don't go there.
Yeah.
So you had such a beautiful question.
It's scary to go here. It's scary to go in here.
It's absolutely scary, and most people can't or won't do it. And when you said, Regan, what can I do? It would be hard enough for a female teacher to approach a young girl.
Yeah.
The system,
not a male teacher.
The system is built way against me and my ability to say even a single word, and that's why I wrote the book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I know for me, I have a student, that I've had in the past, and came to school and first off belly button showing, and then pretty soon it's starting to work its way up, and this happened a couple years ago. But how do you say, girl, this isn't good? Because I know better. In that age, I know better. You don't have to tell me anything. I know what I'm doing. I don't need to hear you. I don't want to hear you. You're not telling me the truth. Until one day she's walking down the street and somebody comes up and grabs her from behind, and then she goes, holy crap.
Yeah.
And when you said it starts in first grade and second grade, it does. The education, the love, the coaching, the being there has to start. Listen, the love has to be there when you're born, first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But in this relationship stuff, it starts right at kindergarten, first grade. You can't wait a second longer. You just have to hope and pray that a child has a mom and a dad both, or a grandmother there for them to help them, and in this day and age, it's even more and more difficult. That's why I wrote this book, because I can't be there, but this book can be there. I don't know how this book is going to enter into the picture, but it's interesting that you said, middle school, because that's where I teach a lot. And I hope to be able to speak at schools, but they're going to have to come find me to speak there. I'm going to.
Okay. Can I shift up something about the title a little bit with that book?
Yeah, sure.
I'm getting that make it more like, how there's the stories about the prince trying to fight the dragon. If you put it more in that esoterical, hey, I said a big word, that it's like, it's not necessarily, because it is an imaginary thing, right? Of this person doing, it's after a real person, but going through that just adding a little bit of, like, the title is 100% there. There's just that little bit of shifting, just those few small words, and saying, somebody's friend, what was the name of the character again? Jency's friend, and Jency's friend of learning about love, or there's something, and I'm not even saying it right. It'll come. But it's one of those things. It's just changing that a little bit, instead of being like a school book, getting it just a little bit lighter.
I'm open to it. If you contact me after, something comes here, because they wanted Jency in there, they wanted initiation.
Yes.
So
yeah. Okay. Well, you know, too, maybe your book will cover it too, but it's like, I think us men who have a hard time dealing with emotional subjects, it's a little hard for a lot of men to talk to their sons about how they should behave in the world of women, you know, because it's almost, we just let that slide in a way.
My
And
dad
women,
didn't.
he was he good or he
No,
didn't? Yeah, mine
it's not
didn't
that he
either.
was mean or bad. He just wasn't
It
made
it
up.
wasn't communicated.
It wasn't made up to be that way for me. He just didn't have it. So
Yeah, I mean, like boys should at least know what's right and what's wrong, you know, as they're coming into puberty, and to know that if they do step out of line, for them to know that they're stepping out of line.
I had two
You know?
older sisters. They did that.
Yeah, yeah, because I could only teach my daughters and young women that I see in therapy and everything is that you know, to look for the signs of a male who's you know, trying to take advantage of them, and just to watch for all the signs, and to just, you know, they like I've had a couple of college kids, and I'm getting ready to go to college, and I say, well, look, there's the big party scene in most of these colleges, and you have to decide now before you go, if you're with your friends at a party and everybody's kind of drunk and someone said, hey, let's get in the car and go somewhere, you have to have already made up your mind what you're going to say, because if you don't, you're just going to okay, I'll just go with the rest of the kids. They have to kind of know, you know, if a boy wants to have sex with you, you have to know, you know, that way already have, you know what your answer is, because when you're wishy-washy, you're going to get in a lot of trouble.
I love
You
that.
know,
That's beautiful.
yeah.
I
You
can't
know,
tell
go
you
through
in
it.
my neighborhood, within a 30-mile radius, I can't tell you how many, you know, when you see someone, when there's a car crash on the side of the road and you see flowers, I've
Yeah.
heard more stories about 5 or 6 kids in a car, you know, a 17-year-old thinking he knows how to drive,
Yeah.
takes the wrong turn, and every single kid is dead in that car. And it happens way too often. So I think
Yeah.
that's beautiful. I never heard that before, to, you know, have answers in your head so that you
Yeah.
are so sure of yourself when the situation comes up. I think that's beautiful.
Yeah. You know, like the guys, you know, you're at a party and maybe you drank a little, which you said you weren't going to do, but you did. And he's going to say, hey, let's go back to my house. You know, I mean, you got to know what's coming already, so you know what you're going to do. You know, I just think it kind of helps a little bit that way. But I know of a young man that when he was a teenager, driving too fast, and he had 3 people in the car, and he came out in a big wreck. He came out okay. The other person, but one of the girls in there has been paralyzed ever since. And so he's almost 48 now, and he's still grieving about
Oh,
that when he was
The
17.
shame of it.
And everything. I mean, it's a lot to deal with, you know, that way. So, you know, I
Well,
guess yeah.
we go through what we're going to go through. But I wanted to kind of give an insight to doing this, that for
Yeah.
me, my dad taught me from a very young. You know, it was a conversation we started having as just an everyday conversation. You know, follow your gut. You know when things aren't feeling right. You know, when you go into the bathroom, you know, make sure you feel good about who's around you. Make sure you got your ESP on. I did the same thing to my kids. We're driving down the road. They're 5 years old. Oh, it's foggy. What do we do? You know, do we drive faster? Do we drive slower? Drive slower, mom. Drive slower. You know, it's like
beautiful.
you start young in doing this so that when they get to be teenagers, it comes a second nature. You
You know,
know,
it's called street smarts.
it
That's
is.
the
Right.
way. That's the way you teach street smarts. That's
Yeah.
beautiful. I love that.
But
Yeah. It's
and
like
that
in the,
it's that the parent thing. A lot of parents don't know better to do better.
you know what I thought of is The Godfather now, where I forget which Godfather it was, but one of the characters there, someone comes to Michael, I guess Michael's the son who was the main character, and says, okay, when the other mafia guys come to you and say, we're going to have a meeting at so and so, they're coming, you know that that's where they're going to try to kill you, you know. And so when that happens in the movie, you know, he has to outsmart him. because he knows that it's a setup. So it's just like teaching them street smarts, when a guy says this is what generally it means, when you have to do
and if
that.
the parents aren't there to do what you guys have just explained so beautifully to do,
Yeah.
they're on their own. And that's a perfect example. And it goes so much deeper than that. But if they're not taught the basic common sense, you could see at school the ones that aren't taught that.
Right.
They're on their own, and they could be the smartest kid in school. But there's something missing there that they're not running with.
The cause and effect. The simple cause and effect.
From we're getting close to the end of the hour already. I can't believe it, but from a spiritual perspective too, we know, well, like me, when I had some really good skills as a therapist, I would see friends or someone that I knew I could help, but you can't get somebody into therapy if they're not ready for it or don't want to, or it's not right to go up to them and say, hey, I see you're all screwed up and I can help you with that. Come on. You can't do that, So sometimes we just have to realize people are going to go through stuff, and we're here to help them pick up the pieces sometimes, but I don't know.
The same way you guys do one-on-one, therapies with your work, I also do that all the time. I can offer myself to one-on-one relationship coaching with adults, with the Bodytrader years, or with teenagers. If if a parent can speak to a kid and that kid says, I would like to have some coaching, I'm available for that. The Open Heart Movement, they can contact me. My email is Luvcoach. I'm not an LOVE. I'm an LUV coach, Luvcoach1@gmail.com. And I just want to be here to help anyone that wants help. And I'm glad to, if somebody mentions your show and they want a 15-minute free introductory just to learn about me and how I can help them, I'd be glad to offer that to your viewers.
That's great, Bruce.
Yeah,
that's great. Gosh,
I would tell people
we got to have you back on. We got to have you back on again, Bruce.
Oh, I love you guys. This is great. I was so thrilled.
So much.
I was so thrilled that we were on together again. So I would normally tell people go to Amazon, and that's where the books are. But with this change, it's going to be a little bit confusing. And of course, we're in Mercury retrograde. So go to Amazon and look for Bruce Starr. If you watch this a month or a year from now, and you'll be able to find the books.
Yeah, there's 2 hours.
2 hours. Very good.
Yeah,
thanks.
Bruce Starr, 2 hours, right.
Well, we're going to do a show together. I'm going to turn the tables on you guys.
Yeah.
I'm going to have you guys as my guests.
Yeah. Well, Bruce, what's really good that we've learned in the 2 years we've been doing this podcast, just talking with so many people and doing like we're doing, it's going to help you to prepare for your podcast too, because you're going to be just a lot more at ease. When I had to give a talk on this Life Between Lives process last week at the New Living Expo, I was surprised how it just flowed, and I knew it's because of the podcast that we've been doing 2 years, because you get used to talking about the subject and everything. You have all the information right around you because you're talking about it all the time,
Yeah.
So
you were on the radio, weren't you, Bruce?
Yeah, I mean, this is old hat for me. I've been on the radio since '93, television. It doesn't ever get boring, especially doing a great show like this. I hope 1 million people get to put their eyes on this show and hear what we talked about today. This is fantastic.
From your wishes to the viewers that can have this opportunity. So
thank you guys. Thank you for having me on. I'm blessed.
Yeah.
And we're connected now. We're family. We're a new family now.
Now the Open Heart Movement that you have down there, openheartmovement.com. Now that's just the general thing, how people can find you.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much information there that I've gathered over the decades, literally. I saw a podcast saying, going against the odds, going ahead and doing it anyway. That's me. I must
Yeah.
have put in 100,000 hours into this relationship coaching thing. And don't
Wow.
ask me how much I make per hour.
Yeah, I know. It's like people. I used to gold dredge, where I would go down in these creeks and spend an hour or two at a time underwater, and I'd be vacuuming, the overburden to get all the way down to where the gold was. And people said, "Oh man, you must have made a fortune." And I said, "Well, it was about half of what the minimum wage is, but it was fun. I'd feel a little gold over here, and then as I told the story before, I had a couple ounces of gold." And I was afraid someone would break in my house and steal it. So I hid it in my house somewhere so no one could find it. And then I couldn't even find it. So when I left the house someday, whoever owns that house in the future is going to probably, or when they tear the house down, they'll go, "Oh, there's some gold right here."
Phenomenal.
That's so
We
funny.
do this from love, from purity
Yeah.
of our heart. And
Yes.
that's the other
That's
thing
good,
that
Bruce.
brings us all together.
Right. That's what I do and Natasha does. So we make a good threesome there doing that.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yep. So
So,
Bruce,
yeah.
thank you
Go
very
ahead,
much for
Nasha.
coming on. I am so grateful that you have, and hopefully we can have you back on in another month or two.
Anytime.
It's been a blessing. So people can reach you at your website there, the Open Heart Movement. There's a lot of information in the podcast or on the information of this
All my work is there. Everything is there.
exactly where I copied and pasted what you gave me, so it's all there in the comments. And thank you again for being here. So Regan, how do people get a hold of you?
Visit theafterlife.com. And what I love doing in this process is helping people get in this deep state of relaxation, and they actually go to heaven and back for a couple. It's like having a near-death experience without the death part. That's the part. So we found a way to activate that process that happens in a near-death experience. So we've had 70,000 people do it so far, and it's life-changing. There's just my website has all the information. You can see a video of a young lady going through the process there, and that. So, and I also have a regular therapy practice, which I do a lot on Zoom for people using energy psychology, teaching them some things that will reduce their stress immediately, help them. I specialize post-traumatic stress. In any form that it comes, and fears, phobias, that sort of thing. And Natasha is a life coach too. I mean, I know you're a feng shui expert because I'm living proof of that.
Beautiful.
In my office here, how when you came, it's been beautiful ever since. Just, Bruce, you ought to have her do a virtual thing, and I'd swear, I never knew I could arrange my stuff in this little tiny office I have here in such a way that's so comfortable and it feels like I have twice the space I had before.
Are you making fun of my background behind me? Is that what you're doing?
No, I just know you're a guy like me, and we just throw everything together.
Well, the wife would kill me if she knew that this was there, because when you do Zoom meetings, everything is a blur. She would, she wouldn't be happy if she knew this. You could see every detail back there.
And actually, you don't see every detail because with three of us on the screen, our pictures are smaller.
Right.
But I love to do feng shui because it is about the energy of the home. And that's my whole wish, is to help the energy of a home to feel more homey than feeling cut up and sabotaging and that kind of thing. So I do love to do feng shui. I can do it virtually. I can do it in person if I'm local, or if I travel to that area, I can actually do it too. I do a lot of different work. I'm starting to do this new scenario where I go back into people's DNA and do healing work in their DNA.
Wow.
And then as we're going back in their DNA, I scan their past lives to see where there's blocks and triggers and stuff like that. And I go back in and heal them at the same time. And I've done it with myself. It's been a tremendous healing process that has just been amazing. I'm having breakthroughs of a lot of different work that there's so many of us that carry our DNA traumas from back. Like sometimes I'm going back to generations 7, 8, where somebody was in a famine and they were a child of molestation, and they knew it, because there was so much shame in that generation for being somebody who was even deformed, And so then
How valuable is this? Wow.
Yeah, and they get, and so we make them stand up, help them feel appreciated, and then we carry that energy back through mother, father, father, mother, mother, father, father, mother, and back, and then we bring it forward, whoever needs to come forward, and then we bring that back into the womb of the mother.
Yeah, we're both, Natasha and I are finding out that when people are in a deep trance or in this altered state, this is a very good way to get perspective on why you have your illnesses and what you need to do to either have them go away on their own or to be healed.
Mm-hmm.
A case of a fellow worker, because I also do this quantum healing hypnosis technique, which I incorporate in most of my sessions. And this other therapist had a woman that came to him. She went to a past life. Well, she had a scar on her neck here, like a burn on there. But in a past life, she experienced where she was hung, and that's how she died. Well, 6 months later, she sends a photo to the other therapist and showed that her birthmark had completely gone,
Mm-hmm.
and now that's just how amazing and crazy all this new type of healing and everything is. Now we're entering a whole new way of understanding healing.
This world is going to go through dramatic changes in the next year or so.
Oh, we don't even know the half of that statement. I mean, it's holy.
We're getting that from so many channels right now that we're in for
what we know is going to be so much more valuable than just being, a little bit here and a little bit there. We're going to be mainstream.
Yeah, I think so. All right.
Get ready.
Yep. Get ready. Well, thank you, Bruce, for being here. If you can stay
thanks, Bruce.
a few minutes. Thank you, everyone, for watching. If you hear of anybody who can use this show, please share it. Please subscribe. Please like, because we are here every Monday at 4:00 Pacific time. I'm on Wednesday with Life Clarifications with Natasha at the same time, same stations, 4:00 Pacific time. On Wednesday, I'm going to have Mark Anthony. He's a well-known psychic warrior on my show on Wednesday, and it's going to be an interesting conversation. I'm excited to listen, because there's sometimes where he helps the cops. And I know I get hits a lot of times where, if somebody is on the news or there's somebody, I get the hit on what happened to them. And so it's a very interesting process of that kind of thing. So it's going to be an interesting show. But please watch. And if anybody knows that you want to listen to a podcast, this show is going to be on podcast on most platforms. So please look for Life Clarifications with Natasha. Wonderful. So blessings, everyone. We will see you on Wednesday and next Monday. Bye now.
Bye-bye.